Extreme ownership. People don't want to accept any sort of responsibility for their actions. It's like this dangling carrot. Here's this perfect opportunity to just throw the blame on someone else. And then it's just like knowing that, seeing the opportunity, breathing it in, and just saying, nope, it's my fault. That was all on me, bro. Yep. I should have planned better. I should have thought about this more. I should have structured my day better instead of, ooh, after bad happened and he decided to go get water and this happened and the parking, whatever, because you never change and the cycle repeats. Your freedom actually lies on the other side of extreme ownership. People try to get off the hook by making an excuse, blaming somebody else, and then the perfect situation happens. They use it. And they think that that's freedom. They think that I got out of that one this time. And it's like, you didn't escape anything. You've actually locked yourself in a cage and threw away the keys.
Eating to live, yeah, I'm living to eat. Catch me enjoying vegan recipes. Fiend for chlorophyll.
Greetings, it's your boy Gartatia, and today we're going to talk about extreme ownership. The best way to describe it is, I'm just gonna tell the story. So essentially, Friday, I sent like a blast text on my friends. I'm like, guess what? I'm gonna be performing at Bantu Fest 2021, 2022, and y'all should come through. Bam, bam, bam. People like, okay, I'll slide. Maybe. Some people, 100% down. Some people, I'm in the area. If I finish this, I'll come through. And this particular friend in question, he's one of the, oh, I'm going on a Burna Boy, Wizkid Afrobeats, Africa vibe binge all weekend. So count me in. Super excited text, right? So lo and behold, we all know the story unfolds. Saturday, I take the test. I have COVID. So Sunday, essentially, I cancel everything. But I didn't tell him that. I actually forgot to tell him that my set's actually canceled. So he thinks that my show still happens. So he texts me either late Sunday night or early this morning, a long text about, oh, yeah, I know I was super hyped, but my friend got me drunk last night and I slept in. And I just look at it like not feeling any kind of way, just kind of rolling my eyes. And it hit me just like, wow, extreme ownership, the lack of it. No, people don't want to accept any sort of responsibility for their actions. And I'm speaking to myself. We would much rather point the finger. We would much rather just shrug off the responsibility to free us from any blame, to free us from any judgment of why we do things that, frankly, it's unnecessary in my opinion. It's unnecessary to blame your friends because you couldn't make a concert. That's fine. Like, just say you couldn't make it because you slept in. Just say you couldn't make it because you had something else to do. Just say you couldn't make it because you were tired. Why put that on your friend as if you didn't have any control of that situation? As if he roofied you. As if you got Bill Cosby'd. As if you were tied up and blindfolded and someone fucking took a car, was it Jack, and literally like forced open your mouth and poured a bottle of Jack Daniel down your throat. If that, like, send me the receipts if that's the case. Like, show me, and then like, cool. And I know why people do it. I feel like 50% of it is people don't want to say no. So that 50% of people will say like yes to a situation, but whole time they weren't fully on board. There's that 50%, and then there's another 50% who actually did want to come, but then don't want to hurt people's feelings, and then they make up an excuse. They think that by making up a complete excuse, the point is not that it's a lie or not, right? His friend may have gotten him drunk. His friend may have been the more, let's get another shot, let's get another shot. But the point is, like, you are a grown ass adult. You agreed to take that shot. So even if your friend literally was like, motivating you to keep drinking, at the end of the day, you paid for the shot probably. You bought the bottle and you put it in your mouth. And it's just like, it's not even just that person. And I'm cool, I'm cool with that person. It's no hard feelings, but it's just something I'm seeing in society. It's this lack of ownership, specifically extreme ownership. Extreme ownership is different from normal ownership. Extreme ownership is when you may have been tempted. Extreme ownership is when you do have the opportunity to blame someone else. Extreme ownership is it would even it would even be tolerable to blame someone else in that situation. Extreme ownership happens when a situation happens that it was even out of your control. But you know what extreme ownership is? Extreme ownership is even those situations, even the ones that were out of your control, extreme ownership is still taking accountability and recognizing the part that you played in the way that played out. So what does that mean? It means if it was a situation out of your control, why were you in the environment in the first place? If it is a situation that is semi in your control, why didn't you take control of it? And it's really just those two scenarios, because anything else, that's just making an excuse. That's just regular ownership. But extreme ownership is, it's like going the extra mile. Extreme ownership is, even though it's very easy to blame X, Y, and Z, I'm still gonna take not the L for it, but I'm just gonna take responsibility for it. Because when you take, I know it's crazy. I know it sounds wild, right? Here I go. But who would have thought when you actually take responsibility for things, a magical thing happens. You know what happens? You get your power back. Your freedom actually lies on the other side of extreme ownership. People think that they're free, or people try to get off the hook by making an excuse, or people try to get off the hook by blaming somebody else, or get off the hook by the perfect situation happens in which something that they made a mistake on could be easily scapegoated for, right? And then the perfect situation happens. And then what do? They use it. They seize the moment. And they think that that's freedom. They think that I got out of that one this time, right? And it's like, you didn't escape anything. You've actually, in the, I don't know the term for it, but you've essentially, you know, locked yourself in a cage and threw away the keys, right? Every time you do that, every time you make up stuff, every time you use an excuse to make the spanking on your ass a little less hard to bear, every time you do that, it's a short-term fix to a long-term problem, right? It's the short-term relaxation or easing of maybe the anxiety you have about something. It's the short-term, you know, pausing or cessation of a feeling of being reactive, right? It's a short-term fix to all of that, but in the long term, if you got your head on straight, it makes you feel guilty. In the long term, if you got your head on straight, it gnaws at you. You might think back and wonder, like, wait, why did I make up that excuse? And then the worst thing it does, right, is you build a habit. And this is the other 50% of people. This is the other 50% of people who they actually intend to do something, and when it gets closer to that point, because they've built up such a habit of making excuses, it's as if like they have to get a quick fix, and their drug is making an excuse. So some people will make a plan, intend to follow through with the plan, even like prepare for the plan, but if that day comes and they haven't made another excuse that day, because they're used to, the brain has been wired to making excuses, they will make an excuse to cancel that plan, or to just somehow fall through. Say you told them to bring something, like say if like I don't pregame anymore, but say you told them, bring a bottle of wine, right? It's like, oof, I didn't make an excuse today. Fuck. Let me find a reason just to just fit back into that groove, because my body's comfortable with this habit of making excuses. It feels good. It feels good to just shrug off responsibility, even if it's something that I wanted to do. right? And that's the part. And a lot of us have gotten to that point. A lot of us has gotten to that point where we've just become so casual about making excuse, like become so casual about making plans with your friends and then canceling last minute. Become so casual about, oh, do what you want, and you know, you can make plans and you can cancel at any moment. You know, it depends on how I feel. It was this post that literally pissed me off, and I almost unfriended somebody because of it. Literally, this girl made a post. Actually, though, I don't know if this is relevant because actually, like, I respect the post. I don't respect the lack of concern for other people's time, but actually, I do respect the way she delivered. It wasn't really an excuse. It's pretty much like, listen, I don't feel like going. That's not actually an excuse. So bad example. Bad example. Another area of bad though. That's still bad to just not respect people's time. But I would say that's a step up than like making up some bullshit excuse. I will use another example. This is like me though, like my personal experience. So what happened is I have the perfect situation. I have the perfect situation to make the incredible excuse, the perfect excuse. So essentially this was when I was shooting Treehouse Show episode 59. So big episode. It was my first time doing like outside kind of outdoor interview vibe where we're walking around. I had like spent more money into it. Hired a drone operator. Shout out to Frank. So it was a bigger event, right? It was bigger fish to fry. But what happened? What happened was I didn't plan accordingly. I didn't go into it deliberately trying to be late. However, my lack of planning, my lack of really taking someone else's time into account, it really showed. And what happened was I wanted to make my life more convenient, right? I didn't want to wake up that early because what I could have done is I could have had the drone shoot before the indoor podcast. But no, I wanted to sleep a little more. I wanted to have more time. This is after the rave. It would have been more comfortable for me how I set it up, even though there was a risk of the podcast going on a little longer, even though there was a risk of just random shit happening and me being late because this person was my friend and he gave me a little discount and we're close. I thought that, so what if I'm a little late? And I feel like if you're late and you do as much as you can right as possible, I feel like that's okay. However, if you're late and then your mindset was, well, I was kind of going into it expecting to be a couple minutes late. You should never go into something expecting a result that disrespects someone else's time if that's not somebody who you are. And if I value myself as somebody who respects people's time, if I value myself as someone who values my own time, how controversial and how hypocritical of me to set dates with people that I claim that I love whilst making the date knowing that I'm going to be a few minutes late to the date that I set when I had complete authority over that time. I could have made the time 30 minutes later. I could have made the time 30 minutes earlier. But it's the fact that I set the time knowing that I'm going to be late just to do things at the last minute because it's more convenient to me. Whereas that other person's time, if I just communicated or if I just picked a later time or earlier time, that person's time could have been spent. He's a busy guy. He could have spent that time editing. He could have spent that time coming up with ideas. He could have spent that time doing anything. Maybe he had another client, which he actually did. And, I wasted his time or he had to do a weird time because of me. My thing is nobody's perfect. But what I'm learning is, and you know me, I'll be the first to come for myself. This is something that I need to work on. But it's just taking extreme ownership. And that's what I did that day. Like, even though I was like 45 minutes late that day and he was like visibly upset, and obviously it was my guest, like we would have been like 15 minutes late without the guest, but my guest made an extra 30 minutes late because the podcast went on long and I kept trying to end it multiple times. On the way there, he like got lost and went around in circles, and then also like wanted to get water on the way. So by the time, and he's the guest, so I had kind of to do what he wanted to do. But none of that is his fault because he's just going to do what he's going to do. But I could have planned accordingly, knowing that once the guest is on board, the situation is less in my control. I should have calculated that, put thought into that, which shows that I cared about the other person's time and planned accordingly so I wasn't fucking 45 minutes late. Right? So just having that thought process, having that ultra instinct, that mindfulness, let me, when I confronted him, I was completely like, listen, this is my fault. I told him what happened. We went to the store and the guest wanted water, so on and so forth. But I didn't lean into it. I could have leaned into it like it was all the guest's fault. I could have leaned into it like I planned it to be 45 minutes early and argue like, why'd you come so early? Or the people who try to flip reverse psychology you and blame you for being early, or reverse psychology and blame you for being like overreactive that they're late. And part of me did kind of start going down that path, like kind of like I was like, why are you so upset that I'm late? And then I kind of had to tell myself, like, who the fuck am I to tell somebody else how to process my lateness? That's almost like, how dare you be mad that I made you mad? Like, what the fuck? But that's the kind of reasoning you have when you react to somebody's reaction to your action that was disrespectful. So it's like getting mad at their reaction to your disrespect is just a sign of your lack of respect for them. Because if you respected them, you would respect how they feel to your disrespect. Right? And if they're really good friends, it may not be that day, may not be tomorrow, but they'll respect that you respected their reaction to your disrespect. And then hopefully you all can come back together. I hope that made sense. But yeah, I just want to talk about extreme ownership. Like it's like this dangling carrot of here's this perfect opportunity to just throw the blame on someone else. And then it's just like knowing that, seeing the opportunity, breathing it in and just saying, nope, it's my fault. Yep, put it on me. I did it. That was all on me, bro. Yep, I should have planned better. I should have put your time in consideration more. I should have thought about this more. I should have structured my day better. Instead of, oh, this happened and ooh, up the bad happened and he decided to go get water and this happened and the parking, whatever. Because you never change and the cycle repeats. And I could have lost a really good friend that day. I was this close to losing a really good friend. And I'm glad that I didn't. But if I did lose that friend, that would have been an even stronger lesson to me to start taking more extreme ownership. And the faster we get into the groove of taking extreme ownership, the faster we get into the groove of taking ownership over our lives. So we go from being leaves in the wind to the trees that grow the leaves. I hope that analogy made sense. But yeah, stay hydrated, stay breathing in that good ass oxygen, and most importantly, stay basic. I love you.